John Beaudin, Rock History Book. How are you? I said I'd be back in an hour. It took me a few extra hours because I was working on some interview stuff, and it's nice to be back. Remember, if you want to support the channel, we have the 2 Ps, so you can support us with a PayPal donation, or you can join our Patreon. You can have early access to our videos. Also, you can buy a t-shirt. Lots of great t-shirts for all our channels: Rock History Music, Rock History Book, Rock History Canada. They all have beautiful logos like that one right there. Professionally done. Because if you're going to build a logo, you got to get a professional to do it. You can like our video, subscribe to our channel. We always like it when you comment as well, because we read all the comments. He Was There, Love, Death, and More Cowbell, the quintessential song about going to the other side and really not fearing it. It's also a song for a gentleman that we love who's been on this channel a couple of times. Let me bring him up. And he's always a really, really nice guest when we have him on here. His name is Joe Bouchard. He was there for the recording. Let me grab my hand. Oh, I can actually get my comments right here. Here we go. Mark! Oh my God, you're such a supportive guy. Appreciate it. Louis Chiodini. Hi, John. Lois. Mark Burchett, Blue Oyster Cult. Of course. I mean, you mentioned cowbell. Who else could it be? But it's Joe Bouchard's birthday today. Congratulations. Happy birthday. He's 74 years old, and he was in the room when it happened. He was there. As I've mentioned, we talked to him twice. We talked to his older brother, Albert, and they were, I've got the dates. Joe was there in Blue Oyster Cult from 1970 to 86. Joe has released some great music in the last few years. And he's 74, as I mentioned, guitar and bassist. And the drummer on Don't Fear the Reaper was his older brother, who was with Albert, who was with Blue Oyster Cult from 67 to 81, and then came back in 1985 as well. But 2 brothers who, hey, Alex, you're a good guy. Thanks for coming on. Keep rocking, John. Bob Perry. Got to play cowbell on stage with friends last month at the Humane Society fundraiser. Bob, that is so cool. My son, who's a pretty serious drummer, has a cowbell right in the middle of his drum kit. Happy birthday to Joe. Yeah, 74 years old. Seems incredibly healthy. We're going to play you a clip from our first? Anyway, one of our interviews with Joe, where he talks about the cowbell skit from Saturday Night Live. Adam Bauer. Hey, how you doing, Adam? Hope you're doing okay. Thanks for coming on tonight. So we're going to play a clip from Joe to commemorate his birthday. When we get people in their 70s, and you know how it goes, nothing against anybody. I'm 62. I'm watching the clock. When you get to a certain age, all hell can break loose at any time for no particular reason. You know that. Sometimes I woke up this morning, my back was hurting. I'm going, what happened? Like, I didn't do anything. But it's just, it's a when in Rome thing. When you're in Rome, you do this stuff. When you're 62, you get that stuff. But Albert is always one of my favorite interviews. He's fun. You will notice with Albert, in a second when we play the clip, he's always smiling. He's happy to be here, and he enjoyed his time in Blue Oyster Cult. I asked him if he could go back, and he said, well, probably not. I've done it now. They've kind of moved on. And so he said he's okay with the whole thing. So let me cue up. And I asked him first, I've taken myself out of that part of it, what he thought of course, the infamous, the famous Saturday Night Live clip, Cowbell. Here we go.
I thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
Really, really funny, I say this all the time, but, my part is played by Horatio Sands.
Yeah.
The bass player, of course, always the fat guy. Now, I was fat, but I was never that fat. That adds to the comedy, yes. I love that. It really opened up, general, the general populace at the time, the teens, the people that buy records, they never heard of Blue Oyster Cult in 2000, when it came out in 2000. So it introduced us to a whole new generation that, they might have heard the song, and they didn't know what the name Blue Oyster Cult was, but they might have heard the song. But everybody knows about More Cowbell. I mean, so I think since then our music has just taken on a second life.
Yeah. Because that's great respect, man. That if you're parodied by someone in such I found it so respectful. I stopped in my tracks. I remember where I was when I saw it. That's how big that moment was for me, because I was such a fan of the band too.
Well, here's my theory. Columbia, I think maybe the year before, 1999, or they put out Best of Blue Oyster Cult, Don't Fear the Reaper, and they remastered it for the CD. Now, you couldn't hear the cowbell on the vinyl. It was so deep into the buried. But when they mastered it for CD, the cowbell got louder. It got louder. And I'm thinking, the writers on Saturday Night Live, they're in the writing room. They're probably smoking on a doobie, and they're putting the headphones on, and they say, "Oh, there's a cowbell there. Oh, that could be funny." And, I think Will Ferrell was involved with that, but, it was a fluke. It was a downright fluke. And the costumes that they wore in the skit looked a lot like the pictures on the inside of that CD. So I can imagine the costume lady had that CD and was looking at those pictures like, I got to make guy look like that, and I got to make, Gene look like that. And of course they got the names all screwed up and backwards. And there was no, Bruce Dickinson was just the mastering engineer. He didn't have anything to do with the production. But so I was in the studio and the song's finished. And they had there's a 24 track recorder. So they had one extra track. And we had this producer, David Lucas, who loved to add little magical little bits. And he said, let's put the percussion on this. Give it a little thing. So he tried some bongos, and it was okay, but the bongos had to go. And then he said, how about a flugelhorn part? We happen to have a horn player in the studio, Randy Brecker, great trumpet player. Yeah. So he comes out, he's playing the flugelhorn. I said, David, that's the worst thing I've ever heard. And I rarely contradicted him, but that sucked. So the flugelhorn was gone. So we're just sitting around, almost done. And he says, I think it needs a cowbell. Albert, go out there and put a cowbell on this thing. So he got the cowbell out of the percussion box. The studio had their in-house percussion box. And I'm sitting on a couch looking at him like, don't screw this up. Don't screw it up. Come on. And he played it one take, perfect, all the way through. No fix-ups, no overdubs, just solid, straight cowbell all the way through. And the rest is history.
Wow.
But David Lucas told him to do it, and then he did it. Well, now, Eric Bloom sometimes takes credit for the cowbell because Eric did play a lot of shakers and percussion on records. And David Lucas is a drummer, and a very good drummer, so he often played some percussion parts. But I was a witness.
There you go.
I was sitting on the couch, and when Albert finished, I was like, that's over. And he didn't screw it up.
You can just tell by the type of guy Joe is. He's always got this grin. He's always got this look on his face where, as I said a while ago, he's happy to be here. Mark Burchett said Blue Oyster Cult's newest album, The Symbol Remains, is excellent. It really is good, but certainly not the old band. After a while, when you get many years between point A and point G or point S or whatever for a band's life, you're going to get it sounds different. Bands evolved, voices change, playing changes, and it's all good. But thanks, Mark. For Bob Perry says, I got the fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. Put on some more cowbell. It was a great skit. Like I told Joe, I remember where I was when I heard it. It was very, very impressive. But more than anything, I want to say happy birthday to Joe Bouchard, who's such a wonderful, funny man, an enjoyable man who gave me, I think, a little over 2.5 hours of his life. Remember, I was saying this about interviews with people, that I look at them giving me an interview as them giving me a few hours of their life. Now, I remember last night, I think it was last night, I said to Bruce Hornsby, I said, thank you for giving me an hour of your life. And he went, what? After the interview. And I says, well, when I heard the way it is, I was over here doing this thing, and you were, I don't know, wherever you were. And then all of a sudden, we found each other today. Two guys who love music, and you gave me an hour of your life. And he says, wow, that's kind of a neat way of putting it. And when I interviewed him again on the phone, I reminded him that I was that guy. And he said, oh yeah, I remember now, because on the phone he couldn't see me. Not that he'd remember my face anyway. And we took a picture. Do I have that picture? I'm always showing you pictures. I have a picture with Bruce Hornsby. I'll have to find it. It's on my Facebook. And the weird thing about the picture, and I'm way off topic here. The weird thing about the picture is we're on a hill, because in the back of this famous station I used to work at, 14C Fun, there's a hill like this, and he's standing at the bottom of it, and I'm on top of the hill above him as it goes up, and it seems like we're the same height, but we're not. He's much taller than I am. He played basketball, as his twin sons played basketball. And there's also a shade right in between us, and it looks like I photoshopped my picture in there. But I always tell people, listen to the interview. It's in person. I met the guy. So there you go. John, you give us part of your life, and we appreciate it. Well, thank you. That's very nice to say, Mark. That's very nice. Shannon wants to come on more often because she really enjoys coming on, and it's kind of a cool thing. But hey, thanks for coming on. I wanted to wish Joe, again, one of my favorite interviews, a happy birthday, and just for being just a nice man. By the way, he was on he was on a lot of albums. Quite a bit of albums from Blue Oyster Cult. But like I said a while ago, he was with them from 1970 to 86. And his brother was with them from 67. Todd, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on. So I was going to do a thing on Creedence Clearwater Revival, because it's Tom Fogerty, not John, but his brother Tom Fogerty's birthday. Now, Tom is gone. He's the only member of the band that has left us, and I might just do a thing on him just to pay respects to him. Someone was once saying you do a lot of obituaries. Maybe you should do things for people who are still alive when their birthdays come up or monumental times in their life come up. But I could also go back, and even if someone's passed on, to do something for Tom Fogerty. So let me see if I can do that. I really want to just talk about Creedence Clearwater Revival. And the brothers certainly had a lot of things going on, as brothers do, right? So maybe I'll come back and do that. But anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. It's late now. Usually the videos, when we release them late, don't do as well. They usually do a lot better if we release them quite a bit earlier. Anyway, I'm John Beaudin. Please support the channel. At the very top of the description, you get the 2 Ps. You can go on Patreon and get early access to our videos, or else you can make a PayPal donation if you want to help us out. Also, you can buy a t-shirt. You can subscribe to the channel, make a comment, like the video. We like it when you like the video, and we always appreciate that too. John Beaudin, Rock History Book. Take care.